Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so we didn't have a process in place for staff support, like improvement plan process or non-renewal process. So what we did is we reached out to Bob Butler, who had all the statutory dates and timelines. And then I took something that I had used in a previous district and just tweaked it to work for us. Obviously, it's something we're going to have to, as we look at the staff handbook next year, staff handbook is definitely some work we're going to have to do. We're going to have to get a committee together, obviously include the association. We've talked with them about that too. It's just work that we just didn't have the capacity to do this year. But there are certain pieces of it that we need something for now, and then so that we have a process to follow, and then we'll just determine through the committee if there are changes or we want to follow a different process or moving into next year. So just to have something in place for this year. We did share this with Mike and Tim during the association meeting. Okay. And they thought it looked good. They were happy to have something in writing. So basically the outline, and we also had Dan Valit look at it and he said that it looked good too.
Okay.
So timeline is the first piece of it. So this is something that we shared with principals and we vetted through the lawyers, vetted through the association, want to share it with you. And then the next step is we would share it with all staff so that obviously everybody knows what the process is so that it's transparent. So looking at our timelines, we all know that that final notice of non-renewal has to happen by May 15th. So if we're working backwards, the last date that an administrator could recommend or put a teacher on an improvement plan would probably be the week of February 21st, somewhere in that range, just to give it enough time to work the plan and to provide that support for the staff member. If there were any staff that we were looking at non-renewal, we would bring them to the board the preliminary notice by April 20th, which would then mean that's delivered to the teachers by no later than April 30th to give that 15 days in between the preliminary notice and potential final notice. So there's some wiggle room. We could always do some of those steps earlier, but we just wanted to have the drop dead dates on there for principals and for the board. And then we just looked at our board calendar and we talked about if we did a potential closed session in May, that would be prior to any final notice. I don't think that there are a lot of staff that principals are considering for this. Actually, when I talked to them, they literally had one person in mind that they thought they would potentially want to put on an improvement plan, but we thought this would be good just to share with all staff. So then basically the rest of this packet, and we would share it with staff, but it's really a resource for principals. So the first piece is, what is the protocol for putting somebody on a plan of improvement? They would have to notify me, notify Jenica and say, hey, there's this teacher. I want to put them on a plan. Here are the areas where they're basic or unsatisfactory that are leading me to want to put this person on a plan. Once that conversation happens, then they would set up some observations, including Jenica, because we would want to have that inter-rater reliability as far as having somebody outside of the building principal coming in and doing an observation of that staff member as well. Then we just provided some protocol literally for the principal around the actual meeting. So they would meet with the staff member to discuss their professional performance. They would notify them of the areas that they see as unsatisfactory or basic based on Danielson on the rubric. Obviously have that conversation with the teacher, talk about the plan of improvement, like the process, the timeline, what the expectations would be, and then follow up with an email 48 hours later to me, the director of teaching and learning, so Jenica, and the principal, just so that that's all in writing, that they've had that meeting, had that conversation, and the teacher knows exactly what the concerns are. And then, like I said, there's just some pieces for the principal and for the teacher. So the principal would make a copy of this whole packet and use it with a teacher that they were having concerns. So here's the Danielson rubric. So they would just note what are the areas of concern, what are the expected performance levels. So when I used it, I would just highlight the areas that we were concerned about, what their current level is and where I was hoping they would be. Then we would have the formal letter if they complete it. So this would be, hey, you know what? This is now the end result. You've moved to satisfactory in all these areas. Plan of improvement is done. We're good. We're moving on. So this would be the positive completion of a plan. And then there would be, obviously a template for eek, sorry, there was a lack of progress on the plan. Here's where we are and possible next steps. We left this in here. It was one I actually used just to, again, give the principals an idea of how this could be written up. It obviously doesn't have to look exactly like this, but this is just another more detailed. So here are some of the things that we're going to do together on this plan. So I'm going to have you submit weekly lesson plans, or I'm going to be doing 2 additional unannounced observations, or 2 additional observations between this date and this date. We're going to provide you with these resources, these videos, this conference, whatever we're going to give that teacher in that area to help support them. Maybe they're going to record a lesson. These are just ideas. It would obviously the principal looking at that particular person and determining what they think the needs are. But I thought it'd be good to keep those in there just so they have an idea of some possible resources. Create a timeline, and then talk about conferences and meetings. And then this would be all of that information put into an actual log. So again, this is just a sample. So, okay, we agreed upon, we're going to meet on these days. We're going to do these observations. We're going to do this analysis of a video. You're going to do these self-reflections, just putting it all into a log so that it's really, really easy for the teacher to know exactly what they need to walk through in order to successfully complete the plan of improvement. And then there's the inter-rater reliability piece on there too, because you want to have somebody come in from outside of just the people that normally do that teacher's observations to do an observation. And then this is just the blank forms for them to use, not the samples. So I will share this obviously with the full board next week. And I'll put it in the packet so that you guys have plenty of time to look at it. I apologize to attach it today, but I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what we were looking at using for this year. I mean, if we have a staff handbook committee and they like the look of it, we'll continue it, and it would be part of the staff handbook so that everybody would have that right at the beginning of the year to know the process that we're going to follow. If they want to do it something different, that'll come out of the work in the staff handbook again. So that is that.
So the timeline, when it says by February 21st, the teacher is notified if they're being put on a plan of improvement. Just for clarification, that is for the next school year. It's not they get 3 months to work on, is it they get 3 months to work on themselves, and if they don't meet in 3 months, then they get the final notice of non-renewal.
Right. So this would be, we are going to use this process for this year, but like I said, this would only be a teacher who's already probably had evaluations and conversations this year that were, I mean, it's not like they're unaware, right? Like that they're struggling. And so then this is, okay, so we've had these observations. We've talked all year about like these areas of concerns. Now we're going to put a formal support system in place for you for the next couple of months and see how it goes.
So then do you anticipate that next year you might look at that date and push it back so there's a little more time for the teacher to access the resources? I mean, because the observations in themselves will take a week or so. So maybe they just get a little more time to maybe work on themselves before making that decision in May.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually had this kind of drafted, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks ago, but we felt it was really important to like talk to Mike and Tim and send, you know what I mean? Like go through the whole before we would sit down with the teacher and talk about it. And like I said, I really think it might be like 2 people that they're even considering for this year. And it could also be that we put you on this plan and you're making some progress and we don't move to non-renewal, but we say we're going to continue this plan in September. You know what I mean? But just to get it started.
Okay, I got it. All right. Thanks for clarifying.
So it doesn't mean they're going to go to non-renewal. It's just
No, I know. I was just wondering about just the amount of time given to, if you put on a plan of improvement. 3 months is not a lot of time to get yourself to proficient if you're in the basic on Danielson's model. You know what I mean? Like you gotta move forward quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Just
and
quick quote.
These are people that know. You know what I mean?
No, I got it. Yeah. No, this is really more of a question for like future year timelines that
Mhm.
maybe that date is pushed back
Yep.
a little bit so they have a little more time.
Yep. I mean, you could put somebody on a plan in October. You know
Sure.
what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, so we never had anything like this in place. I mean, previously we never had a policy in place. We never had this kind of guideline in place to work with teachers.
Yeah, no. I mean, there were the dates, like somebody has to be
Sure.
noticed of non-renewal by X date and preliminary and then final. And I'm sure there were letters that went out, but there was anything like prior.
There's no process.
Sure. And is this process, you know, is this flexible enough that, I don't know, I mean, what we don't want to do is box us into a process that if we, I don't know, technically don't follow, or, you know, we miss one thing or another in there. I don't know that.
I actually, Andy, think that when we're talking about non-renewing teachers, we need to have a rigid process in place, because you don't want any flexibility that opens the door for any kind of cause for anyone to fight back. So I think that, and looking through the steps that the teacher and the district have to take in order to go through this process, I think is structured, and it should be structured this way.
No, I agree with that. I guess what I'm saying is, are there any traps in here that if we don't follow something, we undermine our own ability to follow through?
Perhaps, but I think it should be like that too. I mean, like if we're looking at seriously non-renewing a teacher, I think that we should have really walked through some steps.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be easy. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay.
For either side, it shouldn't be easy. It should, I mean, it's a serious thing. The teacher needs the help, and the district needs to do their due diligence to make sure that they are helping and then releasing if that's what needs to be done. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about this? All right. So then we are going to move on to item B, which is retiree insurance to HRA.
So this is just more of a FYI. I've been working with WEA and Hayes, and then also Mid-America, who we do our HRA plan for our retirees through. And one of the things that has come up is just looking at just the cost of insurance. It's obviously going to be going up quite a bit. Like I think we kind of got lucky with it being 4% last year. It's looking probably like it'll be closer to between 10 to 12 this year. So it's just looking at, okay, what are some different ways that we could potentially save money? And one of the ways is for our retirees is rather than having them on our insurance plan, is providing them an HRA plan. So it still give them the same cost of what we would be giving them to have them on our plan, but then they wouldn't affect our premium because we wouldn't have them on our plan. So it would bring down our premiums quite a bit. So just preliminary numbers, it would be probably roughly like 216,000, and that's just premiums alone. That's not including any of the rising costs that they would add to our insurance. But a lot of districts are starting to go that way to get retirees off of their insurance, but still offering something. So the HRA would give them the same amount of insurance, and then they also could work with a Medicare consultant and get the supplemental. So in the end, it could potentially end up being better insurance than what we can offer. So just kind of exploring that option to see if it's something that might be worth pursuing. So that was all.
Good question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't have a question.
Well, I'm just trying to remember our recent discussion about not providing HRAs to retirees. And yeah, I mean, so now we're basically reversing course.
No, it's a little bit different because like right now we pay for insurance for any employees up until their Medicare eligibility. So this is for those employees that are on our plan right now for the next 10 years or whatever until they're Medicare eligible, and then providing the HRA. So I get what you're saying, but it's not the same typical like HRA of what an active employee has, because it would be an HRA that would cover their whole premium. So instead of us paying the insurance and getting hit with any of their expenses and health issues, it would just be paying that premium cost.
Okay.
I understand that. Do you have like a timeline as to when you want to take this to the full board?
Oh, I wouldn't want to do this probably till next fall.
Oh, got it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just on the horizon.
Yeah, it's just one of the things, because our insurance renewal meeting is coming up. And so it's one of the options they're gonna to give me to look at what are some potential cost savings that we could do.
Okay. Okay, and then item 2C is the personnel update.
Okay, yes, I was muted, I know. I'm getting back into the groove. So I wanted to just bring this to you guys. I'm gonna bring more information to the full board, but I thought since we had this meeting, I would just bring it up. So looking at Director of Special Ed, Lindsay and I have done a lot of talking. We've looked at some job descriptions. We've looked at kind of our service delivery model that we've got in the district. And what we would like to recommend is a 0.6. So that would be 3 days a week. So 24 hours. So that would be not a benefits position. So it'd still be a pretty significant cost savings from what we were doing before. As far as special ed director. We've also talked about the idea that we're in a space now, just in education, where there are potentially people that are retiring and not maybe yet so ready to retire. And so something like this could look really nice to somebody who's been a special ed director, but doesn't want that full time anymore. And then we also looked at just what we've learned from COVID around virtual and that as an option. And could we also have it look a bit enticing by, say, doing a mix, like a hybrid, like 2 days in the office, maybe a day in each school, and then a day virtual to also just kind of, because we know 0.6 could be challenging, but we'd like to post it that way first and see if we find anybody. We've also talked about if we can't find anybody for part-time, could we combine it and do something like part-time coach, part-time director, or part-time, but that's tough because then you're an evaluator and a not evaluator. You could potentially do, some districts have done a split where they have a caseload. So they're teaching for part of the week and then they're director for part of the week. So those are just like things we just tossed out around full-time, but we're feeling cautiously optimistic that we could find somebody at a 0.6. We were looking at Mapledale Indian Hills and thinking that was going to be a partnership, but now their school psych is getting her license and they're just going to kind of go with that. And she's, I think, going to do both. So they don't need to split it because she's doing the psych and the director role. So that's kind of a bummer, but looking at just the timing of the year, we thought we better start talking about that so that we could bring some job descriptions and some more concrete things to the next board meeting and look for approval to get a position like that posted.
Okay. That's exciting. So it'd be a July 1st start?
Yeah.
I bet you're excited for that.
You know what's been actually really great though is because Peggy Black's been in the district, right? And she's been doing there's a lot of listening at this point. And so the last meeting we talked about, there are so many like technical things that we want to get done, but there's this idea around beliefs that we feel like we have to tackle first around what does special education look like. What's really been great is that Peggy's worked a lot with Jenica. So it's exciting to think about adding that position, but not having it be a silo, because Jenica's been really involved in conversations around special ed because it's so affected by tier 1 instruction. So yeah, it is exciting just to think about not having it be such a siloed position, having it part of teaching and learning. So
well, that's good. Well, I hope we find someone that's good.
I also just wanted to add, just because of personnel, we do have our summer custodians all set for the summer. It's all our current employees, so I know our team's pretty excited about everybody that's coming in. And then one of our second shift people took a position at his dad's company, so we had an opening in second shift, and we have an interview today that sounds promising to fill that slot. So
good. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Andy, any questions?
No.
Okay. Then item C is, or nope, 3A is visitor participation. Well, it looks like it's just the four of us. And I don't think we need to participate. So then the next item is a motion to go into executive session.
I'm moving if you can hear me.
I'll second that. Voice vote, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So let's